Perfecto.
For that.
Buenos dias, Carlos. Thank you for joining us. Good morning to everyone that's tuning in on our HACE pages on LinkedIn, on Facebook. Welcome to our Cafecito con HACE. My name is Patricia Mota, President and CEO for HACE, the Hispanic Alliance for Career Enhancement, national nonprofit dedicated to advancing Latinos across the country and helping employers recruit, retain, and develop top talent. It is my pleasure. I hope that you engage, ask questions, share, and we'll have some time to address some of the questions during the end. I hope you are staying positive, focusing on what you can control. And I hope you have your cafecito ready to go. It is my pleasure to introduce all of you to our guest today, who is president and founder of the National Mexican Museum of Art, Carlos Tortolero. Carlos, buenos días, ¿cómo estás?
Buenos días, estoy muy bien, muy bien. I had my coffee at 6, okay, so.
So no coffee right now?
I'm early. There's one thing I teach young people, enjoy your sleep now because it goes away.
It goes away.
Enjoy it now.
So hey, ya tuviste, you already had your coffee, and because this is our Cafecito con HACE, we ask, how do you like your cafecito prepared?
I would hang around with my grandmother. I love my grandma. She was my hero. She had more, leche con café, so many leche. And I'm very hyper, super hyper. So I stayed away from coffee practically my whole life. Till about 2-3 years ago, I began drinking coffee, but decaf, never black coffee. So I put a lot of cream in. So mine is not for a real coffee drinker. They wouldn't like my coffee.
Yeah. Well, hey, everybody has their own style of enjoying their coffee, and you already had yours nice and early. And so during our Cafecito con HACE, we like to showcase various leaders. And so I got to know you a little bit more when we sat on a panel together during Hispanic Heritage Month last year at Pepsi. I enjoyed our conversation and dialogue. But can you share with the group here that's tuning in about your career trajectory and how you ended up being in the work and leading the work that you're doing at the Mexican Museum of Art, which is such a huge staple in Chicago?
Well, I started out as a high school teacher. I loved, teaching high school kids. I used to love having those dialogues. Jose, where are you going? It's time for science class. Go to class now. No, I don't want to talk about baseball now. We'll talk later. Go to class. I like those conversations. So I've also worked with grade school kids. I worked at, college a couple of times. I like high school kids the best. But I felt there was a need for a museum on the culture of Mexico, especially all the bad media that we've always gotten. This stuff isn't new by Trump. This is going on forever, folks. So, we have an amazing culture. I am so proud to be Mexicano. And so I thought there needs to be a home. So I, 5 people, we were all teachers, and the art world had no faith in us. So I'm like Santa Claus. I always remember, who's nice, who isn't, have my own list. And I think if you talked to a lot of the folks back then who, they would say today, oh, I knew they were going to do it. No. They didn't think we would do it because we were just teachers. So that says a lot about, what's wrong with schools. That faith in teachers has gone away. It really has in so many places.
But I think now in our virtual environment, a lot of parents now homeschooling, I think there's a newfound respect and gratitude for our teachers, right? Like never before. So thank you for sharing that. And I think for folks that are tuning in from across the country or the globe, please make sure to pay a visit whenever we can, right? To the National Mexican Museum of Art here in Chicago. Recently, Carlos, I saw a wonderful news that the museum was awarded a $3.5 million grant from the Ford Foundation. Congratulations, first and foremost. I know as leading organizations during these difficult times, funding is always helpful. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, Ford declared 20 arts organizations of color across the country America's cultural treasures. We each got $3.5 million. There was no grant application, nothing. Just my grant officer at Ford, because we are current grantee, Ford called up and says, call me up now, it's urgent. So I called up and 3.5 million. So it's been very, very nice. There are 4 Latino organizations got honored, by the Hispanic of New York, Museo del Barrio, New York, the Museo of, let me get it right, of Puerto Rico Art, I believe it's the exact title, in Puerto Rico. And else. Nobody from California, interesting enough, nobody from the Southwest, nobody from Texas, nobody from Rocky Mountains. And we changed our name about, 14 years ago. People said, National, why Chicago? I said, because Chicago's Mexicans are super activists. And, why not Chicago? Because you can see books written on us, and Chicago's not mentioned at all. Not all, it's like we don't exist. I always say that we're the diaspora that even God forgot about us here in Chicago. So important for us to have the home here.
Absolutely. I think, I think that's great because you're able to support your work. And one staple holiday, right, that is represented as part of our Mexican community is Dia de los Muertos, right? And this year it's a different year. I mean, we've been hearing the news about how Mexico's making some actions in terms of how they're celebrating Dia de los Muertos this year. What is the museum doing, and what tips do you have for our community so how that we can celebrate, stay safe, during this time, but also have a good time?
We usually get around 500 school groups, at least, that come visit us from throughout the Midwest. Mm-hmm. We do tours in English and Spanish. They're done by young people. We don't do that senior woman thing, which you're going to talk about one or two things. We got young people. We train them. They do an excellent job with the tours. But this year, since the museum's closed because of COVID, and we want to make sure that anybody who wants to come to the museum has to stay safe. The museum staff needs to be safe. So we are closed until there's going to be a vaccine, most likely. Hopefully, God willing, that happens by spring. Hopefully. Yeah. But for this year, we're doing something that no museum is doing in Chicago, and nobody else I know is doing it around the country. I can't say somebody else's, but I've been searching, asking people. We are working with schools and corporations or anybody else they schedule a live tour, a virtual tour. So it's happening live. It's not a tape recorded thing. You press a button, it goes on. No, it's not on Facebook that runs continuous. It's not on YouTube. It's a live, like we're doing right now, and people can ask questions. And museums like us have always been the ones who have led the way. The big museums have the money, but in terms of creativity, innovation, and it's us, hands down. No brag, like Muhammad Ali used to say, just fact.
Yeah, wonderful. So where can everyone access those live? Do they go to the website or?
Well, we have two. One, a group can sign up for one. Mm-hmm. They can do that. Or, we do about one every 3 weeks. And, people can access those. And what's good about that is you can ask, questions live. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, for our opening, we did do a live, tour as well. And we had 2,800 people on Facebook. No, on YouTube. And we had 800 on Facebook. That's good numbers. And people from across the country, Mexico. We had somebody from Winnipeg, Canada, which is good. We're doing a lot of good stuff, online, virtually. And, our program's really good. The president's been really kind to us. I was saying about how good our virtual programming is. We have a very super creative staff. They are super, super creative. So they always find a way to do great things. I'm very proud of them.
That's excellent. And it seems like you found a great way, not only with your leadership, with the team that you have on board, to pivot during these times to ensure that the mission behind the museum is still upheld and that we're able, but there's also a silver lining, right? It seems like you were able to access a lot more people, right? From places that we've never thought of before. And I think that's excellent. Those of you tuning in, get your questions ready, any comments, we'll be, and make sure that you're sharing. This is an excellent resource, especially as we're getting ready to celebrate Dia de los Muertos and recognize those from our family and generations in the past as well. Carlos, so as a result of your leadership and the work that you're doing to really push forward and create awareness around the Mexican culture, what encouraging stories or inspiration have you seen during this time?
Great. Okay, a couple of things. One about Day to Dead. It's very important to know that Day to Dead is a celebration. It's not a religious holiday. It's a spiritual holiday. That's not morbid or sad, and the opposite. It celebrates life. Every human being on this planet has accomplished something because somebody along the way helped them. It's a way for us to honor them and thank them. It's not Halloween. I love Halloween. Halloween is fun, boobs, scary, blood. That's Day of the Dead. Day Day is very spiritual. Day to Day reminds us that life is something sacred, holy. We should embrace it. Stuff like racism, ageism, anti-LGBTQ. It's so stupid. You imagine if an alien landed on this planet and said, so what's up with the racism thing? How would we answer that? It would be the most embarrassing thing in the world. So we have a long way to go as a species, And the fact always for people is every country in the world has a beautiful culture. Let's say Latin America, every country in Latin America has a gorgeous culture that should be, enjoyed and celebrated. There's no such thing as Latino culture. It's Latino cultures with an S. Everyone's unique, special, and beautiful. We should special it. I mean, we should appreciate this and should not lose it. Which I always tell people that calling yourself, Latino, Iberian American, Latinx, Hispanic, all these terms are secondary terms. You should always, first and foremost, be proud of the country you're from and preserve that culture. The key to us is how do we work as Latinos but maintain our individuality? If we lose that, we cannot survive just being, Latinos. It just won't survive, folks. The culture identity. And yet we have a problem now where we can't say, like if in a meeting, I'm Mexican, Puerto Rican, like people get upset. What's up with that stuff? I was a kid, I grew up in a neighborhood with a lot of blacks, Italians, and we would play baseball against them, football, and Mexicanos and Puerto Ricans, even though primarily men were, people who were, Mexicanos, we would play them, and then we'd go home, but we're still Mexicanos and Puerto Ricans together, and that's what we should do. We have to work together on causes that are important to us, but to not lose our individuality. Because if an alien landed here and said, "What are you?" We said, "Oh, I'm Latino, or Latinx, Hispanic, Americano," whatever term is used out there. That's incorrect. That's a term that talks about a coalition more than anything else.
At the end of the day, right, we each are human beings, right? And I love that. Yes, there's so much diversity in the Latino community, and it's important to embrace that side that you have if you are part of the community, and also the other layers, right? Whether it's, sexual orientation, whether it's hobbies that you have, whether, there's so many layers and there's so many connections that we have with one another. So thank you for sharing that. I'm jumping into one of the questions, and so one of them is, aside from that we're getting from the audience, some of the initiatives that you mentioned that is doing virtually, is there anything else that you can share that the museum is doing?
Oh, well, we're still planning for shows in the future. We had a Frida Kahlo photography show that's going to be up in March of this year. We had to cancel that. It's the largest show ever done on the photography. We did a big painting show a few years ago, but this photography show is amazing. The person in charge of it is an amazing arts person. And we were able to get it now for 2022. We were able to luck out and
wonderful.
Get it 2 years from now. So we're always working on exhibition, performances. We're always doing, things like that. And, and we work with artists across the country in Mexico. That's very, very important to us. So we still do a lot of things with schools online. Our online schedule is incredible, all the things we're doing. So, but the same thing too, when people ask me, so what are you going to do after COVID ends? I says, I'm going to run to the front of the museum and greet each guest and say, thank you for coming. After that, I'm going to Mexico, man, because, I have to go to Mexico at least 3-4 times a year. It's a fix. I need to breathe the air, be in Mexico. I need to climb a pyramid I haven't climbed before. I need to see a church I haven't seen before, museum, or just be around my gente. It's very important to me.
Yeah, well, talking about being around mi gente, that's something I also love about the museum is I usually go several times throughout the year because you guys are hosting an event. It's either a fundraiser or a networking reception, some sort of exhibit, showcase, and I miss that, Carlos. So, when you guys reopen, we'll be there, right, and celebrate.
I have a great story about COVID. I live in Berwyn, and I live right by the big parking lot where the L was supposed to go all the way through, but they didn't want the L like Cicero Berwyn. They didn't want Chicago Element. It's a huge parking lot. So I'm in my backyard with my dogs and see people walking by. And one day this car pulls in right along my fence, backwards, and a woman gets out, a young woman, and Saka Tacos is right across from me. And this woman gets out and she has a T-shirt, right, of the place. And she bends over, and the hand comes out very slowly. And you see it's a father, and he gives her the bendición, right? And you hear a mother in sign saying, "Mija, cuídate, por amor de Dios, mija, cuídate." That's how I love my people, man. That is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And that's what keeps me going in these times.
Yes, spiritual faith and anything definitely keeps, at least I can attest for myself, keeps us going during these tough times. The last question is regarding, it seems like the museum is heavily invested in the community. How important is it that you, and to you as the mission behind the museum? And I think, the other thing I'll add to this is ASE also is a supporter of pushing forward out of DC, the American Latino Museum. And I think the mission overall for museums and what the purpose that they serve to do is to create awareness and to ensure that we're shedding a light on our communities and the communities that our country represents. For you, Carlos, what does it mean, the mission for the museum?
Well, to be part of the community is always important. We chose Pilsen. We wanted it. It wasn't because we couldn't get space downtown. No, we wanted to be in the community. We want to be accessible. Why does everything good have to be downtown? It shouldn't be an either or situation. Why can't we have a great downtown and have great places throughout the city? Create a win-win situation. I'm a sports freak. So it's always about creating wins as much as possible. And so we want to be in the community. We want it to be free. We want to be accessible. When I was a kid, my father would take us to all the museums. They were free. Now, how does a family of four go to the museum that charges $20, $25? Give me a break. It's telling you they don't want you there. It's very clear to me. That's what they're saying. We have to change that. And interesting enough, a lot of arts groups are suffering because they rely on that box office. We don't. So of course, COVID's hurt all of us, but it's hurt us less because we do not rely on that box office. So it was a policy of being accessible to everybody becomes a good financial management.
Absolutely.
Large museums privately call me up and said, "How do you do it?" I go, "We do it because we want to do it."
Carlos, thank you for joining us and for your mission and for the work. I think accessibility is key in building, access to folks to the points that you made that may have not had it otherwise. And so thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Carlos, for being so gracious to accept the invitation to join us. Quick reminder for the college students looking for internships today at noon, we are having a recruitment event to connect with employers. And last but definitely not least, mi gente, get out and vote. Make sure you exercise that right to be able to voice your voice, your opinion. So, vota. Hasta la próxima. Bye.
Bye.